Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Ethical Hacking and the labs for ethical hacking. This is lab number 10. And in this lab, actually, we'll be talking about how to perform automated network reconnaissance. And we'll be using a tool which is called Recon NG. All right. So Recon NG, those of you who are new to Recon NG, is basically a open source intelligence tool, and also referred to as OSINT, OSINT, and it's called open source OS, and then intelligence, INT, intelligence, so OSINT. And this is basically the intelligence which is collected publicly from, or I would say from the publicly available resources. And so basically in the intelligence community, that is the IC, the term open basically refers to overt or publicly available sources. So basically what all overt resources are there, as opposed to your other resources which are covert resources, or which need some kind of access around it. So again, we're going to be talking about Recon NG, and Recon NG is an open source intelligence tool, which uses all the publicly available data, all the overt. I would say it's not covert operations we're doing overt operations, in which all the publicly available sources will be mined and tapped into to get this data and to use this data to our knowledge. All right. So a little bit about Recon NG. So basically, as we know, that reconnaissance techniques are key, and these are one of the few steps, or the first few steps, that a penetration tester or testers should learn when they are talking and learning about how to exploit systems for vulnerabilities, right? And traditionally, what has been happening is that reconnaissance techniques that have been used to gather intelligence, they have been to define your scope and to identify weaknesses. That is basically your traditional reconnaissance techniques, right? So there are some issues with the traditional reconnaissance techniques also, and basically what Recon NG is, when it comes down to going one step further, when you're trying to do reconnaissance based on overt information, that is your publicly available information. Recon NG basically is a framework, right? And it is packed with really powerful, flexible, and similar tools, which are I would say similar to the other frameworks which are out there, like Metasploit and so forth, right? So Recon NG is an I would say an interactive framework that is of course not menu driven. It is run by shell, and or through a terminal, depending upon a command prompt. And the Recon NG basically uses many different sources, as I said before. And so the key sources are your Google, Twitter, Shodan, and so forth. And some of these, all these are actually packed in modules when it comes down to Recon NG, and that's how it kind of works around its structure, I would say, right? So first things first. What I want you to do is launch your. I'm actually using Kali, and this is I'm actually using Kali on a VM. And if you install Kali, and I had told you guys before, also install it from a source which will have all the key things that you're looking for. But once you install Kali, you basically will get Recon NG as part of the suite. And how to find Recon NG is basically you go to your reconnaissance tools from the menu itself, or you launch a terminal basically. And once you launch a terminal, you should be able to get to Recon NG. By default, the offensive security Kali version, which I've been talking about to you a lot, comes with all these different I will say tools already pre-packed into it. All right. So let's first start with how you will launch Recon NG. So basically through your terminal, and Recon NG, as I said, once you launch terminal, you can you can first thing is you go in and type in the command, basically how to open ReconNG, right? So the first command which I want you to know in this case is basically ReconNG, and then just press enter. So if it's already installed on your computer, it will go in and get that information for you, right? So in this case, the prompt will change. Here you go. So as you know, ReconNG is Tim Toms is basically the key person who has written this framework for us, and it's part of Black Hills Info Security, and sponsored by that. And first thing which you do is the command which you is so I said ReconNG is based on modules, right? So first you want to see all the modules which are part of ReconNG, and you type in show and modules. So modules with a S. Remember that if you just put show module, it will not show one module. So this is basically all the different modules. You can see you got your Bing modules, you got all the different modules which it comes packed with, your contact module, host modules, credential modules, everything, right? So and you got your discovery, exploitation, import, recon, and that's in the front. Like if you look at the blue menu with 87222, that's recon, reporting. So all these modules are also listed up there. You got import modules and then reporting modules. So, and we will go on this lab and the coming labs using all the different parts of ReconNG, I would say. All right. So let's start with going through help, like how to basically effectively use help. So if you just type in help, you can see it comes up with all the different commands which you can use. And these commands are basically, you can just type these commands and make use of them, right? So and you can also type like help and say help and a command name. It will give you the help of that particular command. So help add is basically to add records, back is to to go back to one level in a directory, and I'll show you once I'm working through the demos. But first thing first, let's create a workspace, right? So if you just type in workspaces, and it'll basically go in and give you the correct usage syntax for it. And here what we're trying to do is we're trying to add a workspace. So we just say workspaces, and then let's do that, workspaces and space, and then add, and then again a space, and then let's call our workspace Ducara, DUCARA, and then looks good. Hit enter. So now it basically from default workspace, now you have created a workspace for you where you basically now you can work under this workspace, right? And the command is workspaces add Ducara. So and there's a space between all these words, right? So now you have a workspace. Now let's work in this workspace and do some basic techniques. So let's first look at the list of all the different modules. So you do list. So this workspace is already loaded with few different things, that is social, Ducara, default. So these are three different workspaces out there, and we are listed when you basically go workspaces and list. So it basically lists out all the workspaces. So next thing is, let's try to add a domain on which we want to do some reconnaissance commands on, right? So let's do a add, and then there is a domains domain command, and then we'll just do a domain name ducarainfo.com and just hit enter. So what this has done is it's added a domain name under this workspace. That is, the Ducara has a domain name called ducarainfo.com. You can also make sure that this is added. So you can just type in show domains and enter, and it'll list out all the domains, all the module. It says user defined domain. So it basically gives you the row ID. If you have multiple domains, then it'll basically go in and give that information to us, right? So we created a workspace. We created a domain under that workspace. I showed you how to list a workspace out. I showed you how to list everything out. You can just do basically list of all the different modules, workspaces. all that is there. So we added a domain in there, then a command to show the domains which are already part of a particular workspace, right? So now next thing, let's start with some kind of a reconnaissance work. So since ReconNG is pretty vast, we will go over topic by topic, right? So let's do first thing, let's use the search command, and this is basically searching available modules, and let's do search for Netcraft. Okay, then domain host, so recon domain host and Netcraft, that's where it's located. So you can so let's do a load, and then just copy and paste the path to the Netcraft command, and just right click, copy, and then again right click paste. So it's pretty straightforward command paste for a particular. So we want to use a Netcraft for this domain, and now you're in Dokara domain, and you're using the Netcraft command for the Dokara domain itself, right? So now, and it's important thing is the whole your terminal and your command prompt, I would say, or where you're typing in your commands, has the full path of where you are. You're in ReconNG, you're in the Dokara workspaces, and you're in the Netcraft command which you've launched, right? So now if you say run, it will basically launch Netcraft. And for the domain which you've associated with Dokara workspace, that is dokarainfo.com, and you'll get your information back, right? So this is how, this is a sample of how you can run a command within, and there are tons of commands which come with ReconNG, right? And let's do a search for Bing, and let's do a Bing command also here. So you search for Bing. It's given you a Bing API. You have to, of course, add an API key. So that's the Bing domain web. You copy that. So you gotta press back. All right. So once you press back, then you will be able to load a particular module here, right? Press enter, and you have loaded the Bing one now, right? The best way is like you can just click back also. It'll take you back, or type in back, and run command always runs that particular command which you're in. So you're in Recon, you're in Bing. Instead of Netcrafter, you're Bing domain web. So now it's basically gone in, and it's getting information using Bing domain entries, right? Okay, so that's pretty neat, I would say. So it's basically going in and doing its search, and we got a searchery, one host found. So we can also do IP address searches using ReconNG for a particular domain, I would say, right? So let's do that. So the command for that is search, of course, and then we'll do a search for brute, and then press enter, and it'll give you a brute suffix and a brute hosts. So if you want to use the brute host, if you want to do by IP, so we just copy this module out, and we'll use the use command again. The load command again. Uses to launch it. Sorry. So load command again, and to paste that. So now it'll, instead of the Bing domain web, it'll load the brute host. There you go. So now again, run command is our friend here. We just type in run and hit enter. So now here is all the information which it got. So all the different all the domains, subdomains for Dokara info. It's got everything out from here, right? So it's so if you want to know a subdomain list, this is the brute is your friend down there. It'll get you everything which you need about a domain, what all is being used, what not is being used. Everything gets basically captured and thrown back when it comes on to brute. All right, and yeah, so it's going on and on and on. So these are all the subdomains which basically are under that domain which we are trying to do a brute on, right? And there's a lot of them. It's still going through and churning all the different information, getting all that information in real time using the command which we have specified, and we are running that command itself, right? And so there's a lot of I would say information coming back. So this is a very good tool. I mean, this is all public info, as I said. This is all overt operation, overt public search, using open source intelligence technique, and basically it's getting all the information back, which is nothing wrong in it, because this information is as it is available openly, right? And I would suggest, like, when you're running tools like this, just run on domains which you know or you own, I would say, or if your clients own, and don't try to run it over some other domain name, because you could be flagged as something malicious, network processes being run, and then you could, if somebody else is trying to hack that domain and you are also a part of running a tool just to check, you could get into trouble. So just a quick thing which you should remember and safeguard your interest than anything else, right? And these are actually all the different subdomains which is gathering. And you can have as many subdomains in a domain, that, right? I mean, depending upon some hosting providers, they charge some fee if you want to go above 200 subdomains. But other than that, I mean, there is no restriction on, how many subdomains you can have. Of course, they all have to be lowercase and they have to be unique, but yeah, I mean, you can have as many subdomains as you want for a particular domain. And it's always good to, a lot of companies classify and use subdomains to bifurcate their customer clients sections on a website, securing them in the same way. And if you see down here, it shows the A names also. Subdomains are listed to A names rather than C names. All right, so it says total 32 total, 24 new hosts found. So it got all the information back for us, right? Pretty nice, pretty neat, right? Okay, so that was the brute hosts command, which basically got you all the hosts, right? And now what we can do is there's so no records found. So it's basically gone in and try to see what records were found, what were not found. Wherever it found a record, it gave it's a CNAME or something. It gave a CNAME information in front of it, or if it was was a different one in terms of a record. Sorry. So because subdomains can be associated with an IP address, or it can be associated with with basically another form, that is a CNAME, right? And that is what the beauty of it is down here. So basically, you gotta make sure that you know how to read it. You know how to there you go. There's a one with the A name. There's one CNAME, the SMTP one, which is basically for your mail. And just below that, there is a 68178. Yeah. So you have a server name, and then you have a CNAME also. So where it is pointing, where it's being hosted. So all the main names and CNAMEs and A names all will be listed down here, basically. It says 34 found, so you can go up and up, and you can keep on seeing which all matched, which all did not match, and how that is performing, right? So that is one cool thing about this command. And there's another one, photos.dakar.com, and this is is a record, and A records are added in your DNS entries by using IP addresses. So it shows the IP address for the photos and where it lives. So you can then go in and reverse take that IP address and do something, right? So again, let's go back and let's do a netcraft, and actually let's look at a little bit more information, like if we can find where we can do reconnaissance on. And let me go up a little bit, siphon through these records, because since there are a lot of records which came back, right? and we need to make sure that you are getting enough information for this lab. Then you should be able to try it yourself, which I highly encourage. When you're doing it, I would say, like, the setup of ReconNG, I'll have a separate video on it, or I'll point you to one, so that you understand how you set up ReconNG also, with all the different API keys and so forth, right? I won't be sharing my keys with you guys, because otherwise I'll just use the list command and show them to you. All right. So let's go back. Let's do another tool next, which is the lookup, the reverse lookup tool. And let's do a search first. Search is how you find the path of the different commands which are part of ReconNG. And first you type in search, and then you type in the tool name, as we did with the Brute-host, and as we did with the Bing and so forth, right? So and this is like, I want to do a reverse lookup. So let me the command for this would be reverse and hyphen underscore and then resolve. So this is a reverse lookup resolve, and then you just hit enter. So it'll give you the path to the reverse lookup, and we are looking at the NetBlocks host, and there is a host reverse resolver also, right? So you can use either one of these. So let's do the first one, the hosts. Just copy it, and then of course the command which we're going to use is load, and then copy paste this down there, and it'll basically then hit enter, and it'll load the reverse resolve, and then there you go, it's loaded it. Now we need to just run that, and this is against, of course, the IP addresses which are associated with the domain, which I had put, the dokarainfo.com. And these are all the IP addresses which are basically located with the particular and then we were looking at the photo album GoDaddy one. We look at I checked out the SMTP one with you guys also. So you can see all these are listed out here, and that's also another way to get to the open source intelligence data for a particular domain using ReconNG, right? So now let's do another command called show, and then do hosts, HOSTS, space hosts, of course, and it'll give you a little bit more information around the same IP addresses, and it'll show the host names for that matter, and all the different information around them, right? And you have IP addresses, hosts, row ID, region, module, which module is associated with it, or how it is being resolved. It says how you have mined that data. So all that information now you have basically access to, right? Which is, I think, so pretty neat, right? So Netcraft does not give you that much information, but the reverse resolve, the hosts, you get a lot of information. So you get, the domain name, the subdomain name, like, different IP addresses for secureserver.net and so forth, all the different subdomains which coexist or are part of Dokara info, right? And then you have your SMTP ones, you have other IP addresses which we got before from reverse resolve. Those also are part of that. It basically gives you all of those IP addresses also. So if you type in back, it basically will take you to the workspace, that is Dokara, and it'll take you out from this particular command which you're trying to load and run. So now we are in our workspace, that is Dokara. So now let's do another one, that is reports, and we just type in load reporting, and it'll say that there are multiple modules which match reporting. So now we have to see which module which you want to use. So let's say we have CSV, HTML, JSON, list, pushpin, XLSX, and XML. So we can use any of these paths which you want to use, and this is how you would create your own report, and save it, in the way you want. So, and you can also do help for report if you want to go in and see more information, right? And when you're doing a reconnaissance process on a particular target, you basically would then eventually want to store that data somehow, right? And understand, reporting is pretty critical when it comes down to working with Recon NG, I would say, right? And so just a quick recap. We went through different ways of how to first launch Recon NG, create workspace, add a domain, run some commands, do reverse lookups, see how you can see the brute hosts, how you can go and get more information using the commands, and the load command, the run command, the list commands. So we went through all of these commands when it comes down to Recon NG so far, right? So this is lab, which basically my goal was to just get you introduced to the automated network reconnaissance using this tool, right? So you now are familiar with what Recon NG modules are. You are familiar with workspaces, and you are familiar with what are the different kinds of commands which you would use to kind of run this kind of a reconnaissance, right? So again, this kind of gives into the practical part of the lab, and of course I'll be putting in some steps when for using and for installing Recon NG. If you want to update the version or do anything similar to that. But in general, Recon NG is really handy tool, and I would say it's a framework, right? And Recon NG is basically it's an interactive framework. But as you saw, there's no graphical user interface. It's all driven by commands, right? And Recon NG uses many different sources basically to gather data. That's what we learned, and these sources, you can add these by using their API keys into Recon NG using the add command. All right, and as I said, I'll point you to that particular part also. But you got to first set everything up before you start testing it. So you got to set all the commands up, and then only you can start using them, right? So what I showed you was the usage part of it, not the setup. So the setup will be differently done, and I'll post some steps around that setup itself, so you get familiar with what are the different ways of using Recon NG, and especially when you're trying to set it up for your automated information gathering when it comes down to your reconnaissance. All right. Another thing is that it is similar, as I said, to your Metasploit framework, and if you guys are familiar with that or not so much, but you should know that these are all Metasploit has a social engineering toolkit also. All these are kind of similar things, right? But in all, you should understand that the open source intelligence is what we are trying to gather down here, the OSINT, and basically your intelligence community. This is always referred to as your overt publicly available sources getting information through. All right, I hope you had a good time going through the lab and understanding and about this interesting tool or this interesting framework, Recon NG, and I will see you in the other labs which are around Recon NG also, the next few labs which are coming up for this particular module in ethical hacking. All right, thank you for joining again. Bye-bye.